Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're looking at the Jem'Hadar attack ship. Reading from our Decipher book here again, as I have been for most of the videos. The Jem'Hadar attack ship was designed for only one mission: military conquest. The systems on board have been optimized to defeat any force posing as a threat to the Dominion. The attack ship has been used extensively in the Gamma Quadrant to defend the forces of spacefaring civilizations and bring most of the quadrant under the Founder's heel. The threatening or the threat and threatened the Federation and its allies in the Alpha Quadrant during the Dominion War. These vessels serve as the Dominion's primary enforcers. The features here, weighing about 2,450 metric tons, the Jem'Hadar attack ship is comparable in size to the Klingons' Burrell class bird of prey, but packs a great deal of punch and speed for the vessel of its size. It is designed for the sole purpose of overcoming threats to the Dominion and eliminating them. It serves as a hard hitting weapon capable of crippling starships much larger than its size. The Jem'Hadar attack ship is armed with phased polaron beam cannons that are especially crippling to Alpha Quadrant vessels during their initial encounters. The deflector shield systems on board Starfleet starships were not designed to withstand such an attack. The phased polaron beam cut through the shields as though they were non existent. Later upgrades to Starfleet's deflectors compensated for the initial advantage. Jem'Hadar deflectors were designed not only to repel Alpha Quadrant weapons fire, but also disable tractor beam locks as well. Like other systems on board, the Jem'Hadar attack ship includes robust operation systems. Highly sophisticated sensors are capable of tracking multiple targets in multiple engagements. Encounters with Klingon and Romulan starships indicate this class's sensors are designed to detect cloaked opponents, possibly by continuously scanning for antiprotons. Transporter systems possess the capability to penetrate through raised shields, allowing the Jem'Hadar to deposit boarding parties as needed. Uh, then it goes on about rules. In addition to the ship's highly efficient warp drive and impulse engine systems, Jem'Hadar attack ships incorporate an ion drive as a secondary propulsion system. Should an attack cripple or disable the ship's impulse engines, they can engage the redundant engine. The ships typically travel in threes, bringing to bear their combined maneuverability and firepower to overwhelm an opponent through continuous weapon barrage. Individual ships break formation as an evasive maneuver, giving enemy gunners multiple targets from which to choose and possibly taxing their targeting computers. The ships then reform for their strafing runs in the event. This and similar tactics are ineffective. Attack craft have been known to launch a suicidal ramming maneuver against an opposing starship. Now, we did see this in one of the first big encounters when they were trying to get much of the crew saved from the Gamma Quadrant in Deep Space Nine when they rammed a Galaxy class starship and destroyed it. And then technically, three of the runabouts or four runabouts were able to escape, one of them being towed by another runabout. That's what we have here from Decipher. And I will kind of note a little bit of a change here. So this is a size 3, which is what we have here. And this has also got a complement of 12. Now, we have a crew of 4, but passengers of 12. So D6 Holocron doing their best that they can. And the individuals that were creating this for a D6 version of a role playing game have gone through to do their best to kind of create this as they felt it was kind of really needed. Um, so kind of going through here, so I'm bringing this up because if you look in some other areas or whatever, you may have slightly different um, numbers for crewing and everything else. So that's the only reason why I'm really bringing that up. So this is a Dominion slash Jem'Hadar fighter. This is an attack fighter at starfighter scale. Again, that puts it on par with uh, our Capac, Capac, and our runabouts and that we see from the Federation. So having the smaller ships all interacting with each other, keeps everything kind of on par. Ship mass, as stated before, is 2,450 metric tons. Has an autopilot of 3D plus 1, a crew of 4, skeleton of 1 can operate this vessel, although it has a plus 10 deficiency. It's like a plus 10 added onto the roll. If you're doing this in any other game, your difficulty is really being shifted up by 2. So, however, you want to really figure that out. Although, in playing multiple games or whatever, uh, usually by adding a 10 to whatever that roll is would suffice, anyways. All right, so we do have passengers of 12. Cargo capacity is 5,000 metric tons. Has enough consumables on board for about 1 week. Has a standard warp of 5. It can reach warp 8 for sustainable warp and can reach warp 9.6 for about 12 hours. We do have a nav computer, of course. We have a maneuverability of 2D plus 1, which is very respectable. Has a space of 9.2, so it has a pretty good maneuver or pretty good speed. Has a hull of 4D plus 2, so it is a tough little ship. Has shields of 1D plus 2. So they are pretty good, not the best, but they are pretty good. And for everything else that D6 Holocron has done, it is pretty much on par with everything else. Our sensor packet here, we have passive sensors that can scan out to 3.5 kilometers at a plus 1D plus 1. We have an active scan that can go out to 9 kilometers at a plus 2D. We have an active search that can go out 13 kilometers at a plus 2D plus 2, and a focus of 500 meters at a bonus of 3D plus 1. Our weapon systems on board, we have 3 Type 9 Polaron beam arrays. So we have a 405 degree ventral, 405 degree dorsal, and 360 degree aft firing arcs. Let's see, this is Starfighter scale. Fire control of 2D has a rate of fire of 3, so it has that ability to fire 3 rounds or 3 times in 1 round. And it has a damage of 10D. So in comparison to a lot of the other ships that are out there, this is doing a very significant amount of damage. This has a class Delta tractor beam on board. It is forward facing, same crew of 1, capital scale, has a fire control of 1D plus 1, fire rate of 1, and a strength of 4D plus 2. So for it to be able to capture, hold, or possibly tow or transport a larger vessel, we have that capability here. That's all the weapon systems it has, so it relies solely on the Polaron beam array. We have miscellaneous items here, so we have 3 decks, which I believe in the Decipher book, let me grab it and open up to that page again. I'm trying to remember exactly what it said. I did have a piece of paper sitting right where I wanted to be. Yep, it is 3 decks listed in the Decipher book as well. So I think that's going to be our standard. We have 10 escape pods with a capacity for 8 personnel in each pod. Now, according to Earth Reckoning, this was created in mid-24th century. Now, this has 2 transporters. Has capacity for 6 personnel in each transporter, 2 emergency transporters which can transport 8 personnel, 1 cargo transporter which can transport 400 kilograms, and has a complement of 20 probes. Now, not that the Jem'Hadar are typically doing scientific missions, but I would say if they're launching a probe to extend their sensor packet out farther. We'll read through because it's not overly big here. Just their description: the Jem'Hadar fighters, also referred to as attack ships or attack fighters, are a small class of starships used by the Dominion in 2370s. Let's see, they're the backbone of the Dominion fleet and fulfill a variety of roles of scouting and patrol duties to leading assault forces. So, again, pretty much what we had read before, and it goes on here. And it is very nice that, for the people that had done all the work on coming up with this on D6 Holocron, that they put in all that work and effort. I always try to give people that do that stuff all the credit because I'm kind of borrowing from what they had created. I'm trying to bring to you their creation, and then when I find stuff that they don't have and I find it somewhere else, I'll try and create it in their format. Because, again, and I've said this before, they have a very nice format for how they do things compared to how I was kind of bashing through stats and all that stuff. So, um, you know, I think this might be the last small ship we're going to have for a little bit. We're going to start getting some bigger ships in, which I'm sure there's a lot of fans for a lot of the bigger ships and so on and so forth. And I understand that. You want to be a big a captain. You want to have a good sized crew and everything else. You don't want to feel like you're a captain of a tiny little boat. And I do understand that. I've said it before. For me, when I'm doing role playing games, I just have a handful of us. So trying to do this, I'm trying to keep the guys engaged so I don't have them saying, hey, why don't we just contact the ship and beam down 30 engineers and they can take care of it. We can sit back in lawn chairs and just kind of, drink coffee or whatever. Uh, there's a difference between, when you watch a show or, how you envision being on a ship and being a captain or whatever compared to when it's just a small group of people around a table playing a role-playing game. Those are the differences here. We have a lot of ships yet that we haven't gone through, and there are other pages where people have come up with their own ships. And I've said it before, some of them I don't fully agree with how they create them, but you know what? They deserve a little bit of limelight, and there's a lot of people with a lot of creative minds out there, and I think they deserve their 5 minutes of fame for whatever I can give them as well. And I'll try to keep it in our format that we have here, even if I take their initial format and I'll try and put it into a game stat for anyone that does want to do this as a D6 version of Star Trek. Again, because now for like the warp drive, I do have in here an 8x backup and a 1x primary. If I was going to port this over into Star Wars itself, I would use that instead of the warp drive. Most of everything else I would leave the same, although there is a part of me that says for the weapons and that I might change those just a little bit more. I might not worry about type whatever, phaser, disruptor, polaron, whatever beam. I might just list it as this type of cannon because now it's in the Star Wars universe. But that's me. I don't know, for everybody that watches these videos, what you're, if it's just listening to someone like me just being silly and, my love of role playing and my love of the franchises and all, which direction you want to take it. But I do like to just put this out here and say, here's a possibility. So, with that, thank you so very much for stopping by. It's always great to have you stop by. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next video.